Just two of the young guns from the Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge Australia as we get set for race 2 of the weekend on a glorious afternoon at Sydney Motorsport Park. Welcome everybody back to our live stream coverage here on Shannons Nationals Facebook page. Delighted to be joined by the series commentator once again, Richard Craill. How many years is it for you now? You are like...
Some.
Do you get a Porsche watch for that?
I wish. Tag Heuer are a major sponsor of both of our categories. Rusty, I wish. I'll get right on that. Next contract deal, I'll get you to negotiate.
Good work.
We're one race down already in round 2 of the Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. This is what happened earlier today. Perfect start from pole from Max Vidot. He's the championship leader. Aggressive opening lap, the young West Aussie Aaron Love down the inside at turn 4. Great cold tyre pace was key to his story of working his way from 5th to 2nd. Ryan Sewell started on the front row. Not a great start, and ended up in the battle pack for 4th place. That was Tom Taplin having his spin at turn 11 at the top of Sydney Motorsport Park's Jack Brabham front straight. Love was pressuring Harry Jones. It was a great fight for 2nd place. There were some moves here now. Brett Bolton went round the outside on his comeback trial. Unfortunately, he was penalised for passing under yellows at that sector of the racetrack. And this was what brought out some of the yellows. Belford into Ewer up there at turn 2. Gee, that's an action point of this racetrack, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. Shame for you because Belford committed to the corner, but I think it was just a really late dive. Net result up the front of the field. Vidot converted that pole position into a race win. He's driving brilliantly at the moment, and a really good job by his stablemate, if you will, in the 78 in Love, coming home in 2nd.
Yeah, it drags it up to be the 6th Sonic Motor Racing 1-2 in a row.
Amazing.
In one-make Porsche racing in Australia at the moment. It's a huge effort. Harry Jones and Ryan Sewell, the McElrea boys, that long rivalry between the two teams, go from the 2nd row of the grid. Cameron Crick got a 5-second penalty for rolling at the start, but managed to retain 5th place. Pancioni was another with a penalty, but he was able to go back to 6th place. Sam Shahin ultimately won Tag Heuer Pro-Am, so he starts on the 3rd row of the grid. Brett Bolton was significantly penalised, so he starts a long way down the field. 19th position in this one. A drive-through penalty equivalent for passing under yellow flag. So it's a significant margin to get wrapped on the knuckles, 30-odd seconds.
And a couple of people benefit from that as well. I mean, David Gregg, he's a guy that is eternally positive. In that car of his, to start out at P15, that's actually pretty impressive, isn't it?
He and Andrew Goldie are fighting for Class B. That's the older model 997 Gen 2 Porsche Cup car that we saw in the outright levels in Carrera Cup, sort of 2014 Carrera Cup era. They have an amazing battle, and Andrew Goldie actually won that class, so he's 2 positions further up the road in 13th. And I bumped into the big West Aussie after the race, and he was over the moon with his performance. Now, dramas for the car that was 3rd in Tag Heuer Pro-Am, 9th on the grid for this one. Sergio Perez, local driver, Valmont Racing. This team run by Jose Fernandez. So he starts a long way down the order with his car failing to fire on the formation lap from pit lane. Rusty, that's one of our key contenders. He was 3rd in the opening round of the championship.
That's a shame, and a good little operation there too with Jose, a guy that's competed and raced at the wheel himself in things like Super 2. So we take a look at how they'll grid up for this one. Keep an eye on young Cameron Crick. He made that blue off the start line before, the son of the multiple Australian truck racing champion in Rodney Crick. That's a blue he won't make a 2nd time, I don't reckon.
No, correct. I'll be very, very cautious about that. That's a Garth Walden Racing run car for Cameron, so the very experienced Garth will be on the radio. Now, moving from one hat to another, he's got the TCR hat off with Michael Armand. And 4 categories, 22 people on the ground.
Massive.
This weekend, GWR, locally based team. So we run through the 2nd page of the grid. 24 cars will take the start in this one. Marty Ewer's car has been repaired by the Buick Motorworks team in pit lane. We find Cameron Vanderdungen.
Talking about all these penalties before, guys. I'm trying to work out what the penalty I've got to give you for not looking after your poor pit lane reporter with a coffee at all today. But very quickly, Max Vidal was told by Mike Henry on the radio before this one, it's pretty hot out there, Max. Back them up, back them up. It's a big grid. I checked the ambient. We're looking at 23 degrees down here in pit lane. It feels closer to 28. It is a beautiful day in Sydney.
Dear Sydney, it's autumn, almost winter. Has anyone sent that memo?
It's a good part of the world, isn't it?
Awesome.
I tell you what, track temperature further to what Cameron was talking about, 34 degrees.
Crazy.
On track with all this UV, so temperature's up. The one good thing these guys are loving is that the TCR cars use the same rubber. It's the same compound, so when we're at different race meetings, different rubber that gets laid down. Sometimes it doesn't work with the tyres, so they don't react as well, they don't generate as much grip. same stuff as TCR. So these cars are producing plenty of traction.
Are we going to roll out that marketing win-win term, everybody wins?
I think so. Why not? As for Cameron Vanderdongen's coffee supply,
yes.
Didn't ask once.
No, and Porsche do make a ripper coffee here, so he actually needs to step it up himself. So this is a real shame for the 55 of Perez. He did a really good job in that the opening race earlier this morning. Field come through. Just on the point about our race winner, our championship leader at the moment. Has Max lost a bit of weight over summer? He looks even sharper and fitter than ever.
Well, he's on the Sonic Motor Racing program, so you get yourself into shape pretty quickly when you're driving for the Ritter team, I would have thought. And yeah, working hard. I was talking to Maria Ritter, who runs the team with husband Michael and has done so for so long. And we touched in race one about the luminaries that have come out of that squad that are now at the very top of world motorsport and Australian motor racing.
Too.
Yeah. And he said it's been great. Max has moved to Melbourne to be with the team from his Adelaide base, and he's taken the boys in the workshop out for Palmy night every week, which is just terrific. I thought that's great. A bit of team building. Well done to Max Vidal.
Good on him.
His young teammate Aaron Love alongside the SRG Global car. Sergio's car will be recovered nice and quickly. Great work by our volunteer officials here at Sydney Motorsport Park to get that car to the back of the pits. Third in Tankoya Pro-Am, the race within a race in Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. But as the field grids up, I think we're going to be good to go. So really good, quick recovery. A shame for Sergio, though, who is a contender this season in our championship. So 10 laps, Rusty, here at Sydney Motorsport Park. An absolutely stunning afternoon, and 23 Porsches will be on the grid. And listen to one of the best noises in Australian motorsport.
Flat sixes on the rev limit. Love was a demon on the cold rubber in the previous race. Real dramas for Max Vidal. That is almost a carbon copy of what happened to Cooper Murray here last year. Thankfully, there is no dramas. He does not get even the slightest scratch, but he is dead last. What a shame. Love pounced. Real dramas. Maybe a clutch issue or something off the line for Max Vidal.
Popped the clutch, went nowhere, and you referenced the championship deciding moment, the end of last season. It was almost the same, and the car's still not rolling. Could hear the echo of that engine bouncing off the grandstand here at Sydney Motorsport Park. So he's got revs, but he's got no drive. I wonder if it's broken an axle. So you put 460 horsepower through the thick, sticky Michelin rear tyres on these cars. It may well have popped an axle, and there's no drive in 77. So the man who's won the first 4 races in the championship going nowhere, and the safety car has been called on lap 1.
Hey, well done.
Ross McGregor. Big moment. You were going to say well done to everyone for evasive action.
Evasive action, that's the first bit. And Goldie, in the older generation car, is knocking on the door of the top 10.
The green inside that helmet will be
huge,
luminous. Great start from Aaron Love. Talked about his cold tyre pace in race 2. And pulled a little bit of a margin early in that one. Let's see if we can get an update from Sonic Racing. Let's go down to Cam.
We just talked about Max Vidal, and you told him to back them back because there was a very long wait potentially on the front of the grid. Did that play a part, do you think? Have you got any information? And I know, Mike, it's hard to get some info from the driver.
Yeah, it is sometimes. I don't think anything we've done on the outlap has made a difference. Ultimately, he sat on the grid for a bit. So, obviously, the reason when you've got somebody parked up on the track on the outlap, you don't want them parked here. So we want to keep air going through the engine. So that was all the reason for that. But it's what it is. We'll have to find out what's happened. Luckily enough, the guy's pretty quick. So we'll come back tomorrow and try and do something about that. And it's a long season, but these things are always a bit disappointing, aren't they?
You tried to work through a few programs on the radio with him. Is he out? Is it you told him to kill the engine?
Yeah, he's parked it up. So we're done for today, mate.
Thanks, Mike.
No worries.
Now, worth just highlighting, he's the championship leader. What sort of wound will this have, A, for the rest of the weekend, and B, when it ultimately shakes out at the end of 2019?
Well, it's a 60-point per race scenario, so he'll lose the lead of the championship with that moment. Even after building that margin, it was 24 points coming into this race, so he's going to drop significant positions, especially with Aaron Love, Ryan Sewell and Harry Jones, his closest rivals, right at the very front of the field. But the best thing is tomorrow, 25 laps to work his way through the field. And if there's a silver lining in the cloud that is Max Vidal's world at the moment, is that at least he's going to have decent rubber for that final race, because he will be able to save a set of Michelin tyres for it that will have one less race under their belt of the 8 tyre allocation they've got over the weekend. He won't be thinking of that right now because he'll be pretty disappointed with life, but So on the first 4 races, we know he's just about the fastest guy in the field. So let's watch and see how he comes through the field tomorrow.
And that's all a part of a big invitation for you to join us tomorrow for our Shannons Nationals coverage, because that race forms a part of the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy, a very special trophy in this championship now, won by Cooper Murray last year. Who will win it in 2019? And it's a part of every round. Replay of the start. Sam Shannons was mighty.
Yeah.
He got up to third as a result of that. But for me, it was hard-in-the-mouth stuff. Thankfully, no one made contact with Max Vidot.
But fortunately, that Bob Jane T-Mart's livery is so bright that everyone could see it, and the field split. Unfortunately, Cooper Murray last year wasn't so lucky. That was the big run up to turn 2. Your point about Sam Shannons, well made. What a launch. And I don't think the front couple of rows didn't get away very well. Aaron Love had a lot of wheel spin, but then the McElrea cars on the second row of the grid did as well, and that's why they got passed by Shannons, who's up to 3rd place. Tom Taplin, Shannons' teammate, was off the line brilliantly too. He's up to 4th from 7th. Emma?
Yeah, well, you just saw Sergio pull into pit lane. Tough luck. What was the issue?
Not really sure. Just felt like the car wasn't getting fuel. We pulled in and they fixed it straight away, but they wouldn't let me get back out there. So disappointing after a 2nd place in race 1, but we got tomorrow.
Better luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
On a positive, does he win the Best Race Driver Hair Award of the weekend? He's perfect.
Yeah, and haven't taken the helmet off.
That's what I was doing. That's what I'm meaning.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I think that's a given. He gets that for the season already, 2 rounds in. No relation to the Mexican Formula 1 driver either, by the way.
Just to clarify.
Point that out.
Okay.
He's a great character. Sergio raced in Class B in the championship last year. Stepped up into Tag Heuer Pro-Am this season. Really good job. 3rd place in the opening round of the championship. He's got a bit of a rivalry with his very good friend and teammate Marcel Zalua, who's running 9th at the moment. At Valmont Racing, 2-car team, 1 car bright blue, the other bright yellow. So there's a bit to unpick from that very busy opening couple of corners before we went under safety car, the least of which is the Max Vidot drama. So Harry Jones back to 5th place from 3rd. Sam Shannons up 4 spots to 3rd. Tom Taplin's up 3 spots to 4th. Cameron Crick exactly where he started, in 6th place. So nice job, but no worries about rolling on the start this time around. Christian Pancioni's the same. Michael Lochisano's got ground in the Hallmark Property Group number 10 car. So he's up to 8th. Marcel Zalua, we're just talking about, is 9th. And Ross McGregor, who is now the 3rd most capped driver in the history of this championship, 31st round start this weekend. Only 1 behind the great John Morris and 3 behind John Goodacre. So if the rest of the year goes to plan, by the end of this season, Ross McGregor will have started more rounds in Cup Challenge than any other driver. He's a great supporter of Porsche One Make Racing. On the podium in his 30th round at Simmons Plains last time out. And Andrew Goldie, you talked about the Class B car up to 11th on the back of the top 10. And he and Ross McGregor, Rusty, were battling for track position, later model car versus older model car, in race 1 earlier today. So there's a bit in that.
And just while we were chatting there, the Bob Jane T-Mart's entry very slowly rolled into the lane of Max Vidot. So our team down there, either Emma or Cam, no doubt will get a word with him, and let's see if we can understand what went wrong for the championship leader. So lots of, as part of the regulations here, typically if we're going to have a restart scenario, it happens at about turn 8. We're beyond that now. There will be no overlapping before the control line. That'll be something very closely watched by your driving standards advisor in Stephen Johnson for this class. Love will lead them from Ryan Sewell and Sam Shannons, who was mighty off the original start. But who's going to be brave on these cooler tyres? Pumping the clutch? Is he pumping the clutch there?
Yeah, it could be a clutch issue. So I thought perhaps Axel, because we've seen that before in both this and Porsche Pace Carrera Cup, but could be clutch. Away goes Love. Nice restart. Left it quite late, went hard, and pulls a margin. So very good start for the Sonic driver. So they're leading gunners in pit lane, but they've still got one on the racetrack and leading the race. That was Christian Pancioni looking up the inside of Cameron Crick. The 6th and 7th position. The bright orange and yellow car of Aaron Love leads the field up into turn 2. Ryan Sewell was 2nd. Shannons applying the pressure for 3rd. I wonder if they're going to try and get this car back out.
Salvage something.
It has actually started the race. The reason Sergio Perez wasn't allowed to restart is that he actually never started the race because his car broke on the formation lap. So that's why we saw the 55 car stranded in pit lane.
Check the confidence Oh, no, we've had a drama here. So Love, who had that margin, who had that advantage, has had an issue somewhere between turns 2 and 4 and has dropped right back to P5 now. New race leader, Ryan Soule from Sam Shahin in position number 2. Jones is 3rd, then Taplin. Love back in 5th, ahead of Cameron Crick.
That's a very, very big moment in the context of the championship. We've been talking about this Sonic streak, which is now at 11 straight races across Carrera Cup and Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. And all of a sudden, McElrea have got one at the pointy end. And Sam Shahin in 2nd place in Tag Heuer Pro-Am. What happened to Aaron Love, the 16-year-old from West Australia? I wonder. Cold tyres, turn 2, under brakes on the restart. We talked about how well he judged that initial jump, Rusty, when it went back to green. I wonder if he just went a little bit too hard. Cam?
So the update down here, guys, is that the team of Vidal are not sure whether it's actually a clutch issue. What they're doing here is checking to see if it might be a drive shaft or basically an axle on the rear of these cars. So Vidal, they were desperate to get him back on track. As Mike Henry said to him, you never know. The rest of the field, we might do a Bradbury here, but he's not going anywhere at the moment.
Something weird there. Clearly when Max was pumping the clutch, maybe he felt a clutch there. So some... we haven't been able to get clarity on what's really gone wrong for that car. Such a shame for this young bloke with an enormous amount of talent. Was a winner very early in this championship last year. Remember, we kicked off at the Bend in South Australia. We will visit that track twice as a part of the Shannons Nationals in 2019.
Yeah, and season finale for Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge there in November. It's the latest this series will have ever finished. Running deep into the air, actually finishes after Carrera Cup. So it's going to be a great finale. That track was, and this is not entirely surprising if you know Sam Shahin, was almost designed for Porsche racing. It just suits these cars to perfection. And the guy that designed it's running 2nd in this race at the moment. What a drive this is by Sam. The very pointy end of the field. His wife Tanya here watching on as well. Enjoying their weekend in Sydney's West. The fight is on. Harry Jones, 2nd in the opening round. Tom Taplin, Shahin's teammate, one of our Michelin juniors, running 4th. And Aaron Love, we're still trying to work out and find the vision of what happened to him on that restart at turn 2. Because he was leading that race and leading it by a big margin, the restart. But he's come off the road, he's surrendered 4 spots, needs to make some ground up.
Now, I don't know if watching this here goes deep. Taplin, he does not want a repeat of what happened in the opening race. He was a star, certainly in the early part of race 1, but went around at the back of Corporate Hill in a manner we didn't anticipate. He was making such good progress. Sitting nicely at the moment in position number 4. And Here's a move.
Love, Rusty's had another moment somewhere. He dropped off the back of that fight with Tom Taplin and Harry Jones, and he's exposed now to Cameron Crick in 5th and 6th position. So perhaps an issue with the 78 car, that orange and yellow entry. Let's look a little bit further back. Tony Martin and the Dakin car of David Gregg, the Victorian, former rally driver. These are Class B contenders fighting over their positions further back in the field. They're 16th and 17th on the road. Andrew Goldie still leading that class. He's 12th. Tag Heuer Pro-Am being led by Sam Shahin.
And there's some cars in this class with great history too, isn't there?
There are. Well, the car Nathan Murray is racing was driven by Jackson Evans in this category before he jumped up into Porsche Pace Carrera Cup Australia. Pace at the front of the field is quick. Fastest sector times at the moment. Well, Harry Jones, fastest in the first sector. Sam Shahin, fastest of anybody in the middle. So he leads the class, but he, on an outright level, is fighting at the very pointy end of this race. Soule the leader by 1.4 seconds now. Splitting his program this year between Cam's Pace Formula 4 Championship and Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. And Taplin again, geez, strong on the brakes for turn 2, isn't he?
That move by Soule to compete in a variety of machinery that kind of harks back to the 70s where blokes regularly did that. They'd return to pit lane, jump in another car and off they'd go once again. Great stuff. Let's go to Emma.
So not an ideal finish to your day. Take us through what happened.
Look, I got passed under the safety car by a slower car, and then unfortunately behind the safety car, I managed to run into his rear very slowly, but it seems like I've done some damage to the front right. So it's the day end, not the ideal way to finish a race weekend anyway.
Thanks for chatting with me. Good luck tomorrow.
So Marcel Zalua, it's been a tough day for Valmont Racing. Sergio Perez out before the start of the race, and Marcel Zalua out after just 4 laps.
Now, my vote, my opinion matters not, but can I just throw a little one in there for livery of the weekend?
You can.
Car 73, currently in position. It taps into the kind of Rothmans history that Porsche has had in so many different categories. That is super cool.
Yeah, Michael Hovey, who was sitting on the couch watching the opening round of the championship at Symmons Plains, hadn't planned to race this year, watched the racing and said, what am I doing? Why am I not there? I need to be on the grid. Last year he ran an Evel Knievel tribute livery with like the stars and the stripes across his car. Decided to mix it up. Here it is. How cool does that look?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's an outstanding looking race car. Well done to Hoves and his team. Down to the smallest little detail, honouring one of the great Rothmans Porsche liveries, Le Mans winning program it was back in the day.
Oh, look at this. Gets a little loose over the top of the hill. So Shaheen, who currently sits in second position, has his hands full here. Jones trying to find a way past. Taplin's right in the game here too. This is all for second position in the race, and it helps Ryan Sewell to a 1.9 second advantage now, out in the race lead.
Yeah, gee, there's some energy in this fight, isn't there? And of the 3 of these guys fighting now for second, third and fourth, and in fact that freight train's even bigger because Aaron Love and Cameron Crick have caught them as well. Tom Taplin is the quickest of them, at least on the timing monitor, 1:33.07, fastest lap of the race for the young South Australian last time around. So that, speaking of liveries, the Tom Taplin livery is pretty spectacular as well, in a different style with that almost urban camouflage, modern camo style, yellow and black Taplin real estate car. There it is. And Aaron Love on the comeback trail, running in 5th place. And it feels like a bit of a cork in the bottle scenario at the moment, doesn't it? Second through what is now 7th place, down to Christian Pancioni.
Big test for Sam Shaheen. Brilliant off the race start. Made some ground, obviously, when we recommenced after that short period. Oh, Love's gone right, really wide, nearly over at turn 1. Somehow that did not go over. Somehow it did not bite into that sand trap area. It looks minor from the outside, the angle, but I'll tell you from the inside, from the driver's perspective, that would have had the heart racing. Was running up in 5th position. Loose, wild through turn 1. Was he simply too close? And maybe the air's all a little bit disturbed and he didn't quite have that grip that he needed through 1. And that was wild.
It's almost 250 kilometres an hour before they get to the brakes in 6th gear, Rusty, at turn 1 in a Porsche 991 GT3 Cup car. It is a very, very fast, high commitment corner, and in most instances, there's only one lane through it. Here's a look at full speed. Look at the orange car behind these two. There it is mid-corner, so he got the car turned in, and it started to slide. And then when it got to the access road, which was, I think, the return road for the old drag strip start line down there many, many years ago, it launched it into the air, and as you touched on, very lucky to not go around.
Well done, access road. That's exactly what it was, but it was just the initial unsettling part in the midsection of the corner there, and he chalked up a really good lap too. I mean, he has the fastest lap of the race at 33.0668.
Sonic's weekend has unravelled, hasn't it, from being the most dominant team. All of a sudden, they don't have one in the top 10.
Pancioni gets it done here. This is on Cameron Crick, 4th position.
Last lap too, Greg, so final 3.9 kilometres of the day for Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. The battle for second. What's Harry Jones got for Sam Shaheen? Sam was the first driver in series history as a Pro-Am to win a round outright. Happened at Sandown 3 years ago in somewhat mixed conditions. He was over the moon that day. But it's also fair to say that since then, the competition in this series has ratcheted up.
100%.
If not one level, several. There are 7 Porsche Michelin Junior drivers in the field this year. One of them is giving the HTFU car a big hurry up in this fight for second and third.
I can't help but laugh every time I see that on the side of this.
It's actually a brand. You can buy stuff with that on it.
Well, it's a great test for Sam Shaheen now, and for the youngster in Jones, who we heard from at the beginning of the coverage today. He looks trying to get down the inside. Good drive off that turn 8 by Sam Shaheen. He's resisted here really well. Meantime, Sewell has a 2.6 second advantage. We're headed for the checkered flag here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Race 2 of the weekend, the Enduro to come tomorrow. Jones gets a little wild through the final few corners, and that will hurt his speed off that final turn for the run to the flag. Put your hands together. Ryan Sewell will take out race number 2 here at Sydney Motorsport Park for the Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. Sam Shaheen home second, and Jones grabs that third.
What a drive. Ryan Sewell, first win for McElroy Racing in 2019. His first win in one make Porsche Racing. It makes up for a pretty average day in Cam's Pace Formula 4 for him as well. One of our Porsche Michelin juniors. Gee, there's some talent in Australian motor racing at the moment and in one make Porsche Racing. Well done, Ryan. Well done, McElroy. And well done, Sam Shaheen. That's Buick Motorworks. Alex Davison on the headset. They've had a really good day. Second for Sam and fourth for Tom Taplin, the teenager, in arguably his best ever drive in the Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. And splitting them in the middle, the second McElroy driver, Harry Jones, who's just piecing together a really consistent weekend. He'll be the biggest one to benefit from Max Vidau's terrible race, which unravelled at the very start.
Lots of stories to follow in the wash-up from this one, but we add another name to the impressive record books in Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge, a winner in Ryan Sewell, a great young guy who, as we've detailed already, is competing also in Formula 4, and we recognised kind of last year that he is a fast young guy, and that's when you unlock that, when you do that, it's great for the confidence as you move forward in the championship, isn't it?
Let's go down to Cam in pit lane.
We've seen the victors out on track. Our pole man didn't get much further than a couple of metres. Max Vidau, such a shame for today.
Yeah, couldn't quite get it off the line. I think we the clutch just disappeared on me pretty much. The pedal went soft and we went nowhere. So unfortunately, I was blocking gears, but no drive at all. So got back to the pits. Hopefully, we're hoping that once it cooled down, it'd come back, but unfortunately, it didn't. So just had a look at the results and I'm a bit shocked. So interesting race.
So in a championship ambitious year, or ambition for a championship this year, how far does this set you back?
Yeah, obviously sets us back a fair bit, but every race we've ran, we've won, so we'll just keep that going for tomorrow. And the guys at Sonic give me an awesome car every time I go out, and I'll just keep doing the job.
Thanks, Mac. You're certainly quick enough, mate, so good luck for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, cheers, thank you.
He's a guy that learnt a lot from 2018.
Didn't he?
And you know, resilience is a buzzword right now. He's got that for this championship this year. It's a little wound, but not a massive one, is it?
Rusty, you can tell when these drivers, they just gradually mature, don't they? That's a really mature approach
100%.
to take. He knows he's got one of the fastest cars. He knows he's got the gun race team, one of the best teams in the country, and one make Porsche racing especially, across any category, you'd say, for Sonic Motor Racing. Really mature approach to take. Max Vidau will be back, and he's got 25 laps in the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy race tomorrow. Gee, there's some stuff to unpick from that, though, isn't there? What a motor race. Sam Shaheen's driver's awesome. Harry Jones to third under serious pressure all race. Tommy Taplin to fourth. Christian Pancioni, barely mentioned him in that race, yet a really solid fifth position.
And battling the flu, a guy that was a real standout in the older generation cars last year, and regularly battling those with newer machinery. So that's a, underscore that one. Great performance. Nice work by Cameron Crick. Bolton gets home in 7th. Lochisano 9th. And Love, that's another one we need to follow up. What happened that saw him lose such a comfortable lead off that safety car restart? We thought it was his for the taking.
Yeah, and then bouncing back from the world's biggest off at turn 1 at 200 kilometres an hour. Emma?
Down here with Sam Shaheen. He's giving everyone hugs. Wow, wow, wow. You're saying congratulations. Fantastic race. Second position.
Thank you. I mean, that was a breakthrough race. It looked a bit untidy at the start and the tyres got a bit cold, but I'm just like a kid in a candy store. I mean, that was just absolutely awesome. I just didn't know whether to smile, to grit my teeth, to bite my tongue, to look forward, to look back. It was just magnificent. I'm just so happy to be here.
Great to see the emotion. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks, mate.
He's clearly a chameleon because he's a happy man there at the moment, one of the most determined business people you will ever meet. And when the helmet goes on, fiercely determined. Awesome job by Sam Shaheen. Well done to the youngster in Ryan Sewell. There are stories that we will follow up here. You can see that on the category official website overnight. And we will be back with the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy race tomorrow. Whatever you do, don't miss that as a part of our live coverage of the Shannons Nationals.